Get a little bit. We'll get you in here a little bit. All right. And welcome, everybody, to another live AVNation broadcast. We are today from Middle Atlantic. That's a group brand of Legrand for the AVIXA New York Women's Council meeting. We are in Fairfield, New Jersey, and we are doing with the AVIXA Women's Council a little mixer meeting and about women's issues and diversity in the AV industry. So welcome, everybody. In this, I am joined by my co-host, Mr. Steve Greenblatt. He is the host of A State of Control on AVNation, as well as the principal at Control Concepts.
You got it.
All right.
Glad to be here.
Yeah.
Thanks for joining. Thanks
and we'll
for making it happen today.
Right. We'll talk a little bit more about some of that stuff, but we're joined right now by Mike Baker, I got your name right. I always get those wrong. So we're joined by Mike Baker, who just gave is a keynote for this group today, talking about how diversity in this industry is not an easy job. And you also mentioned, by the way, congratulations that your daughter just gave birth, who's also in the workforce. So you have this dual understanding, as we all do as parents, of what's going on with this and how this industry works. So talk a little bit about Legrand, Middle Atlantic, and that initiative to bring up a more diverse workforce in our industry.
It's George. Thanks, Steve. Pleasure to be here. It's become a true passion initiative of Middle Atlantic, as well as, and I would say Bob Schluter, as the founder of Middle Atlantic, had a vision for diversity, frankly, before we joined Legrand back in 2011, and we've just furthered that, and the opportunity to participate with the AVIXA from a women's and CE type group is one that we obviously couldn't pass up hosting. It's been a journey, if you will, in terms of trying to attract female talent and create gender diversity in the AV industry. We've tried to mirror our workforce, if you will, after our customers, and it's a highly male-dominated contractor world. So we expanded our customer base to look a little bit more at the end users of the product and challenge ourselves to increase the women, the interaction. We've had successes in some part of the organization. Certainly, our customer interaction, customer facing, inside sales, customer service. We've had great success. We've had a harder time outside sales, and certainly we've had a harder time on the manufacturing leadership side. A lot of our manufacturing jobs on the production floor from the assembly standpoint are filled by females. But I feel a certain partnership, as I mentioned to the group, it's very personal for me because of my, the composition of my children, a boy and two girls. And I think that, to the extent that we can make the investment and create this journey and continue to invest in it, then, we will at some point in time down the road see a large difference in terms of our population. So.
Well, you mentioned that they're mostly client-facing, and that's one of the things that we're going to talk a lot about today, because when I started in this business 25 some odd years ago, it was mostly, white middle-aged men, and it still is white middle-aged men, especially on the technical side. Now, we know there's a lot of client-facing individuals, the sales representatives, the customer advocates, those people. Are we, and I guess I'll ask the question, do we need to stress more with the STEM of a more diverse workforce, or are we missing the boat here? Is that that's a great paying job? I mean, for the fact is, a lot of the technical jobs don't start off great paying, but a sales support one does. And are we making the wrong assessment there by trying to push people into that field, or is that migration of people who are in marketing or in sales representatives or in client-facing stuff that eventual merging into engineering?
Yeah, that's a great question. We obviously employ engineers here, not necessarily on the technical side and the programming side in terms of our contracting staff, but certainly on the design side. And we've had a handful of female engineers, and they're hard to find. But what we try to do is, and I firmly believe this, is you're going to be great at jobs you're passionate about. So how do you create the interest? And the customer support position, interacting with the customers, and as they find out, and we've got a current initiative this year in terms of truly getting to know our customers and understanding that business. We've opened up, we've hosted CTS training. We've tried to drive all of our customer-facing people to be CTS holders, and as we create that interest and we start to explore what it is that our customers do, we create an interest, we create an education. And so I don't think we're approaching necessarily wrong, getting them in to to this environment to start with, and getting them into the industry is the big first step. And then let's educate and explain and give them opportunities to grow. And those that are interested and are passionate about, wow, I really want to install AV systems because I want to understand how it works. And by the way, everybody is going to be living in an automated home at some point in time down the road. It's coming, maybe not as fast as I thought it would, but it's coming, right?
So specifically, what value do you see in the CTS prep? I mean, I know that it provides a good amount of background and a nice baseline. I believe in it too. But how has your team really benefited from it?
See, that's a great question, and it's frankly lacking in terms of internal accountability. It's really been the first step is just to get them awareness of the industry. I think it makes our staff more valuable to have at least a little bit of knowledge about the industry as they talk to customers, not just about the account, not just about here's what they bought before, but say I really want to understand your problems. And we haven't had. We started this initiative, the CTS initiative, just 2 years ago. I haven't seen it evolve to a point where I'm waiting to celebrate the first success that says I want to move to an integrator, or I want to move into technical support as opposed to just answering the phone, customer support, general, or maybe I want to take the next step. Maybe I want to go to a CTSD and actually learn about design and get more technical. We haven't found that yet, but I believe that we've got a number of women in the workforce that are adventuresome and ambitious and will, it's a great question. Maybe the right answer is I need to reward the first one. I mean, they'll need to hold the carrot out to get somebody to make that first move.
Well, honestly, I mean, the men may have the same reluctance to doing the CTS because it can be intimidating for somebody who isn't a true blood in the industry, coming at it from as an outsider's view or being new. There's a lot to learn. If you're in a niche area of the industry, one, it opens your mind to all the other parts of the industry, but two, there's a lot to take in.
It's a great point, and you're going to talk a little bit further down the road to Alyson Courain, who's going to talk about our the Elle at Legrand program, and a lot of that's been about education and understanding that the communication and the management of women in the workforce is different than what we naturally think about as men. The male side is generally speaking more self-confident. They jump in and they're not afraid of.
Sure.
And what we've found is that women won't apply for a job unless they're 100% certain that they're qualified for it. Most of the men I get, the resumes are half-baked and, I'm not really qualified, but I want to be qualified. The women will never apply for that job. And so, trying to understand the gender profiles and trying to encourage people to do things different and outside their comfort zone and supporting them through that, I think is a big part of the battle.
So a more general question for you, because again, this industry started off as a very sort of small niche. I mean, we just lost Mr. Saul from high tech stores, the hi-fi tech stores. Mm-hmm. I think his son is Joe Robbins. He runs HSTA.
Yes.
So a real, in 1955 or something like that, founded Stereophonic Sales out of the back of a haberdashery, for God's sakes. But over that time, you said 90% pass, right? And what? First of all, what happens to the other 10%? What happens to those who don't?
They're not here anymore.
Pass. Well, but look, when I worked for a manufacturer, it was first of all, it was a different story. 15 years ago, it was an online course for your first CTS. You had the prep, and you could do it on a computer, and you had notes.
Right.
Now it's a whole thing. Your accreditation. You have to go to a testing center. You have to do it with just a notepad, no notes. It's a whole different story. So what happened? When that manufacturing, if they didn't pass in the first 2 weeks, that was their job. They were 86th. But now it's a different thing. How do you deal with that factor within a company format of saying, okay, you didn't do it. What happens next?
So we have not made it mandatory for any position.
Mm-hmm.
Our initiative has been to let's create the opportunity. Let's encourage. I don't envision the situation where maybe somewhere down the road it will become mandatory, but it's not there yet. And so the 10% that don't, we've left it upon them. If they want to pursue it, we'll put them back through training again. We've got inside of Legrand, Joe Cornwall works over on our DCD division, the data center division, but really promotes AV inside of that distribution organization. And then we've recently hired Max Kopshow. So we've got a couple of really good trainers. I feel like, obviously we're doing it for the industry as well. We're conducting CTS trainings at a lot of different distribution partner branches and encouraging people, because frankly, it's a good thing for the industry. It's, you asked earlier offline, why AV? It's, right. I started, my first job when I was a 15-year-old, that I was kind of lying about it. They thought I was 16. So that male dominated thing again.
Radar O'Reilly.
Yeah, it was at a Musicland store.
Okay.
And that Musicland store, not only did I have to take a test to sell, know all of the genres of the artists, but, we sold 8-tracks, cassettes, various receivers and the like, and all kinds of connectivity. And so, if you couldn't pass that test, you couldn't continue working there as a full-time employee. So I think that I think there are enough similarities in my hog farming background that
well, let's talk a little bit about that background real quickly, because it is a unique background. You worked for a bunch of investment firms. That's your history, right? You came here in 2001.
Correct.
Right, and that investment background probably helped a lot in the overseeing of the Legrand Middle Atlantic purchase, or Legrand purchasing Middle Atlantic and merging. But you said that you had a background in AV, but why AV from your perspective? Why leave that financial side of it, which is very rewarding and very pocketbook rewarding, to the AV side, even if it's manufacturing? AV, it's a smaller business. It's tiny. Why not consumer electronics over, say, something like Legrand and Middle Atlantic?
So Bob Schluter was recruiting a finance person for his company at that point in time. It was a smaller company. It was, and I connected with Bob. We went back. I loved music. Bob loved music. And, Middle Atlantic was built on a bunch of musicians' backs. We were much more of a pro sound, pro AV kind of environment at that point in time. And, I saw an opportunity, and I like the people. I like the environment. I like the rock and roll element, if you will, that we were bringing, and what Bob brought.
And Bob was rock and roll.
He definitely was. And so I came in as the professional accountant. So, I didn't wear a pocket protector, but I probably could have. The way I thought
they wore green visors. That wasn't protective. Did you wear green visors?
We did. That's what happened to my hairline. And in working with Bob, I learned to love the people inside of the AV world. There were a bunch of entrepreneurs, small business owners, people that had a passion for delivering an experience to the customers. And, it's infectious. That's the best way I can describe it. And, after a year as his finance guy, took over as the sales and marketing guy as well, and ultimately took over and as president of the company, and before we sold to Legrand. And it's and the Legrand experience has been different, but equally challenging and satisfying. So why AV? The people. I love the people here at Middle Atlantic. I love the people in the industry that I work with. They've become friends. It's not just a customer relationship. So it's if and when I ever leave this industry, I'll miss it. But I don't anticipate going anywhere else.
Well, cool. Do you have anything further?
Knowing that you've been through this journey with Bob and as Middle Atlantic has progressed, what about the Legrand acquisition or the Legrand acquisition of Middle Atlantic has changed? How has Middle Atlantic changed as a result of it? I know that there's a unique culture, and I know that there's certain special aspects, and I'm sure that a lot of that's held in high regard.
Well, it is. I think that we have a saying that our values remain constant. Our culture evolves, and I think that's when we talk about the AVIXA, the women in CE type approach, and our women's initiative, and it's. So joining Legrand, we became more professional because we had to. We're part of a publicly traded company now. We've got different rules and responsibilities. It's been a little bit more formal. It's not quite the chaos that we had
We call
prior.
that fun.
But it's been really different. And if the truth be told, we've had as much of an impact on Legrand
Interesting.
as what Legrand has had on us. Gilles Schnepp, who's the chairman of Legrand, located in Limoges, France, has in the first year visited our place or tried to visit our place. We had the floods of Passaic, I think 4 times in the first year. And we were different for Legrand. Legrand sells through distribution. We sell direct to contractors. So we're very much a competitor of the customers as Legrand viewed them. And so learning that interaction with the customer and understanding that, the distributors aren't the purchasing influence. They're a selling organization for us. They provide value to the same group of customers we do. But that, we're touching the actual customers, the buying groups, the decision makers, if you will, has helped us refocus Legrand as being much more customer centric. And I think our recent acquisition and investment in Milestone AV Technologies and putting the two together into a single two companies together into a single division is an indication of what kind of influence we've had, because Legrand would not have made it's publicly noted, right? It's a $1.2 billion investment in Milestone AV Technologies had they not been successful with Middle Atlantic. So, I tell the team to take a lot of pride in that. We've done good by the AV world, and they should feel good about that.
Sounds a lot like when TBWA and Chiat Day merged for a while. There was a whole different culture change in those guys when they did that.
And it'll be interesting to see what happens with this most recent one.
Yeah.
Again, anytime you bring multiple different organizations together, and the Milestone's a mixture of multiple organizations, obviously, and so always a challenge with the cultures, but the one thing that remains constant is a passion for the industry and a passion for the customers.
Cool. Well, I want to thank you for your time. We've taken a lot of it. This has
you.
been Mike Baker. He's president of Middle Atlantic Products. That's a group brand of Legrand. They are hosting the AVIXA New York Women's Council meeting here, and it's been a pleasure to talk to you. Should have you on more often.
Hey, anytime.
All right.
It was a pleasure. Steve,
Great to meet you.
All right. And congrats to your daughter.
Oh, thank you very much.
Yeah, cool.
All right. Thanks, guys.
All right. So, guys, that's the first interview down. We will have more coming. A lot of information, a lot of questions I didn't get to because I really wanted to talk about, but in the consensus of time and other things, we couldn't do that. But trying to keep it radio-wise, trying to keep it like a professional radio show. Yeah, me. I know. You can keep your hackles. Yes, Becky, I know that the laughing in the background was distracting at first, but it's a live event. You should see when we do the live ones from for Marla Suttenberg and her group from the Christmas show. It's a lot of noise. It's a lot of noise. So joining us right now, a pleasure to see you again, is Cheryl Smith. She is Legrand Director of Talent. Among her notable background is that she is a PhD in industrial organizational psychology. Oh boy, do I want to talk about that, from both NYU and Yale. I am now more than fascinated, and she joins us during the AVIXA event. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you.
All right. So let's first off talk about psychology.
Sure.
I want to talk about that first, because we got the spiel from Mike about the other stuff, and we'll talk about Legrand's methodologies and corporate culture. But let's get you a little closer too, so we can hear you. So how does the organizational psychology work within your current position? Like, what does that really entail? And does it come into use?
Sure. Yeah. Well, I'm.
Besides knowing that we're all nuts.
I'm schooled in something called industrial and organizational psychology, which is really the science of selecting the right people, training them, making sure that they're engaged in the workforce, understanding what motivates them, keeping them at Legrand and keeping them motivated and contributing. So I use that work science. It's not so much the couch science to inform many of the programs and practices that I lead.
And so that helps the company grow. You're trying to find the right people for the right position.
Definitely.
So in that aspect, growing diversity of a company. So how does that work within a company like Legrand or like Middle Atlantic? And we asked Mike about this, but I think we're going to ask everybody about it. We often see women in this industry. Steve and I have been in this industry for longer than we want to admit. When I joined, it was all guys.
Mhm.
I did a lot of live event work, and it was
Mhm.
all men. And that's
Mhm.
changed slowly. But in the manufacturing side and the corporate side, it's all in the client-facing sales, customer
Yep.
service. Are we missing something out by not pushing the STEM candidates to come here, or is there a progression here that's really working and we're just missing the fact that, yes, there are some really talented people, like we're going to hopefully talk to Susan Luci
Mhm.
from New Era, who's
Mhm.
a real high-tech engineer person. But where's that disconnect, and how do we solve that, I guess, is my basic
Well,
question.
engineering is a foundational building block for being able to do many of our positions well, even if you don't do engineering. It's like learning to drive, it's a foundational skill. And so, what we've done is to build our engineering outreach to make sure that we're bringing early in career female and people of color engineers into the company. One of the things that we do now is when we go on campus to recruit, we make sure we spend a little extra time and we go to the Society for Women Engineers Club.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And we present at that club. Most people have not heard of Legrand. We try to point to something in the wall or the ceiling or the floor that will get them excited. But even just some of the name recognition, going to the women, the Society for Women, or NSBE, which is the National Society for Black Engineers,
Mm-hmm.
making sure that we're piggybacking on those clubs while we're doing the larger event. Even if it doesn't result in hires right away, at least you tell a friend,
Sure.
some recognition hopefully will come of that. But we do recognize that sales, and even our sales careers, are backed by a strong engineering background. It helps. I mean, it helps in every walk of life.
So part of the recruiting sounds like it's marketing. Is
Big.
It really is.
When you're not a household name and you have other companies in the space that are, you have to really make sure that you're doing your job as a marketeer.
So, and one of the questions is like, so the technical side doesn't always pay as well, say, as the client facing at first.
Mm-hmm.
And is there a funneling to that? Right. I worked for a number of manufacturers in this business, and one, getting people to even recognize who we are as an industry, especially nowadays, they all see it as off the shelf CES, right? That's the big show, and that's where all that stuff
Sure.
comes from. But it's not that. Is there an issue with that kind of idea that the guy, the tech in the field, the one who's installing it, when a guy, meaning either gal or guy, is going towards that sort of client facing because that's the more money, that's where the benefits are, that's where the healthcare is.
Yeah.
Is there some kind of sea change that we need to make in saying that's really what we should be pushing as well, to get those people to go there as well?
For the most part, and I won't speak that it's an umbrella for every single one of our
Sure.
brands, but we don't hire installers. We're hiring the engineers that are creating the product, launching, envisioning the products, figuring out how to bring them to market. And so in terms of those professional careers, the career grades can equalize across sales and engineering, so that you might have more pay at risk in sales, but you can certainly earn just as much as a successful engineer as you can in sales. So it should be equally attractive. I agree with you that those kinds of careers that you're talking about might have a little bit of a financial setback to overcome. But for most of the jobs we're hiring for, it's not, and I've not heard that that's an issue, that inequality.
My wife works she was a chef, now works managing operations for a couple of restaurants, but there's a difference between the back of the house and the front of the house.
Yep.
The guys who cook and sweat, and they don't get nearly as much on average as the front of house, who gets the tips and gets all that stuff going. And it's always a disconnect where that person may be talented enough to work that line as a chef. There's more money out there.
Yep.
And you kind of lose a diversity, lose a
Sure.
valued person that could really do well. But
Yeah,
that's where the money
there
is.
isn't a huge overlap between our engineers and our sales folks. I mean, not many engineers want to be salespeople, and those who are they're technical salespeople. They're called specification salespeople, and they bring that level of concrete knowledge to that role. So far, that's one of the problems I haven't had to manage, thankfully. But you can add it to the list.
Yeah, no, it's a general question. One wants to go.
So I think we're all facing the challenge of hiring these days,
Yes.
especially in this industry.
Yes.
Are you finding that it's easier to bring new people into the industry or to find people that are
No,
already
I'm not finding it. I'm finding that we have to
bring
work.
people into?
I mean, what are we at? 4% unemployment right now?
Mm.
I mean, there's every talented person has their pick. And no, it's harder than ever.
Yeah.
I don't find that we have to work harder than ever to make sure that we overcome the lack of brand name recognition just from the get-go. And then these people have choices, and they have a lot of choices. And then if they're mobile, they have even more choices.
Sure.
So we cannot take our foot off the gas, not for a second.
Well, I mean, from your perspective, is it industry recognition thing, like we mentioned before, like CES versus custom, product stuff, or is it really just the
If you want a
employment
great
level?
engineer, you're competing with who? Facebook, Google. I mean, it's agnostic to, it's not even about the industry anymore. I mean, maybe in sales it's more applicable. You need to know, you'll be better as a salesperson if you know the industry, know the product, know the connections. But for operations, I mean, it's 3 categories. It's sales, it's engineering, and operations. For engineering and operations talent, we're being compared to everyone, because those are industry agnostic functions.
So Mike was saying in the opening a little bit that bringing people to Fairfield, New Jersey is also a
Yes.
challenge. So how much is the idea of remote workers coming into play? And I'm sure certain positions lend themselves to it and certain don't. I know my company has certainly changed a bit because with the idea of being able to support remote employees, but it's hard because it does impact your operations and your culture.
Absolutely. I mean, look, field sales, you could be wherever. I mean, you need to be where you can get to an airport. If you're going to be working in the plant, you got to go to the plant.
Yeah, true.
If you're going to be working on a piece of technology, you have to be with your team designing it. I mean, it's Scrum, it's Agile. You can't do that from home. Human resources, I could do it from anywhere. It doesn't matter where I am. But for a lot of our jobs, it's not a great fit to do it on an ongoing basis. Exceptions, yes, but as a condition of employment, for a lot of it doesn't work.
So talk to me. You're going to be attending, and I think you're a featured speaker at the Chief Learning Officer Exchange Forum in May in Atlanta, right?
That sounds familiar.
Yes.
I haven't looked that far out of my calendar.
I know.
Thank you for reminding me.
Okay. Well, because I wanted to talk. So, what is this? What is that event about? What does that really cover? I mean, I know that the theme of it. I want to get this right. Is engagement, retention, and impact on the modern learner. So this is a little bit what you were talking about. But have you written it? Or do you know you're going to speak about it this event?
These role-based events are becoming very popular. In fact, my prior employer was the king of nailing the role-based event. So this event is targeted to CLOs, whether you have the title of CLO or not, and it addresses hot topics in the land of CLO-ship. And I'll be talking about the work that we've done recently in career mapping and how we've created a lot of transparency to all the jobs at Legrand North America, how you can get from one job to the next, and how you can facilitate a career conversation with your manager with some real data behind it. So that's what I'm planning on talking about once I get actually thinking about buying the tickets to go to the event.
Well, you're a featured speaker. They're flying you in first class, are they not?
Yes, of course.
Business class. I think the
My
sleeper.
own plane, I think.
I think. There you go. One more thing.
CLOs travel.
Yeah, right. Exactly. It's champagne all the time. Right, 2-drink minimum out here. Right, 2-drink minimum. So to that end, though, I lost track with the champagne thing, but let me get my head back. I guess I've lost that. Sorry, guys. Darn it! I lost the question I had about it. But the CLO,
I mean, these events they're a mix of hot topics and then vendors in different spaces trying to show you what. And in fact, it was at that event last year that I met a vendor that they're called CAEL.org. They're great, CAEL.org. They're amazing at career mapping. And it was conversations with CAEL that sparked the thoughts that I'll be presenting in Atlanta in May.
So how does the career mapping work? I mean, we often talk and especially in the United States, about the fact that you can start off as anything and have 4 careers throughout your lifetime.
7 is the average.
All right, 7. Okay, 7's the average. So how does that work within a company like Legrand, where you may have started off as an engineer, but you make that right turn for a good reason? But how does that work? I mean, I guess it's nurtured, and you say, yes, we think you could do this. Take these classes and see how you do, and move along. And how radical of a change can that be?
It can be very radical. If it's a big change, what we've noticed is it's not always you see it in yourself. Someone sees something in you. And so we had, for example, an engineer in one of our divisions. Someone saw in him the ability to be a great product manager, and that wasn't his background. But as they turned him onto it, they said, why don't you talk to Joe? Why don't you talk to Mary? They're both product managers. See what they do. See if you could live like that. Would that be exciting to you? And then as the people do their research, talk to folks, start watching, because we do open posting. So every job is posted. They can start to turn if they want to. But usually a radical turn starts with someone seeing in you something you don't see in yourself. Otherwise, you tend to see your functional silo. And that's just human. I don't think that's Legrand. I think that's just human nature.
Does that come from a manager that sees something in you, or a mentor,
or a manager,
a coworker?
It's usually a manager, and it's often someone 2 up.
Okay.
Who isn't as nervous about losing you
to
someone else because you're doing such a great job. It's not often, but when it happens, it's usually someone seeing something in you.
Oh, cool. Well, I really appreciate your time.
Oh, it's my pleasure.
We were talking with Cheryl Smith. She is Legrand's Director of Talent. She will also be speaking at the Chief Learning Officer Exchange Forum in May. I believe it's in Atlanta. Yes, in Atlanta. I think that's still open for enrollment for those who qualify.
It is. Doing a little CLO marketing.
There you go. Well, thank you very much for your time.
It was my pleasure. Thanks
all right.
to both of you.
Thank you.
Have fun getting home
all right.
today.
Enjoy. Yes.
Take care.
Yeah, I know it's raining out like cats and dogs. I think we have to build the ark, Noah. I'm not sure with that one. Coming here today, it was like that.
It's probably too late, but I'm actually the VP of talent. So,
oh, okay. Well,
I don't know if you got that from someplace that I need to correct, but it should be right on my LinkedIn
I
profile.
believe I got it from your LinkedIn profile, but I'll double check that. And it also may have been Tim who did that, but when in doubt, blame Tim Albright. It's the way it goes here. It's funny because the mapping thing I really like. That's whole psychology, and the mapping is something that when I started when I was at Crestron, I was in quality engineering. And how did I get my job doing customer support, managing the technical support guys? I was at an Infocom event in Atlanta, and we're shaking hands and talking to guys about issues and saying, really, you're having that issue. You know who I know you should talk to, and you know what you should do. And it was a great concert, and I had a little bit to drink. But I noticed on the side, Mr. Bargetzi looking at me and kind of smiling at me. And then we got back, and a week later, I was offered the position of working directly for Rich Sasan and being a manager of tech support. But that kind of thing within a company is really important, right? I mean, how much talent do we miss that's just plugging away, doing what they're doing, and maybe they're a little unhappy, or they like doing that on the side, and you get a product out of it. You get someone who says, here's an innovation.
It also takes the right person, too, to be willing and have the courage to make that jump and leave a position that they may be comfortable in.
Right. But when you have a person like that who's helping you map that, that's an amazing thing of, hey, someone's noticed a talent. Let's try it out. And you won't lose your job, or you won't, this is not a do or die situation. Now, I don't know the actual technical side of what they do, but I'm sure it's not a throw you into the fishbowl, go, right? I'm sure they nurture it and try to see. And if it doesn't work out, they move you back to where you were and say, let's try something else. That, I think, and that's the biggest fear, right? Failure and loss of a job, especially when you're a family person or when you're a little bit in the older set. Those things are difficult. I don't want to change because if I fail, then I'm out of a job.
Change is hard for most people, especially technical people.
Exactly. I know we hear all the startup guys, the Silicon Valley people say, failure was my best teacher. Yeah, you're 22.
I will say that you learn a lot by failing.
Oh, yeah.
That's for sure.
It's true. If you're a parent, you know this every day. But, and I admit it. There's been a number of positions I've had where I was like, yeah, it didn't work out, and we move on. We learned from it.
Sure.
I was a social media manager in the early days. In the early days, it worked. for the modern campaign and marketing style, I would be a community builder for them, but not the marketing manager. It was a good try. It was a lot of fun. Got me doing this.
Yeah.
Everything's a progression, right? I mean, so let's talk a little bit while everybody filters back in real quick. I want to get in a plug for your show. We mentioned at the head, so it's State of Control.
Yes.
It's monthly, near the end of the month, usually publishes. That schedule still, right?
About the third or fourth week of the month.
And it's not just about the bits and bytes and talking about which select active code works best, right? It's more intense than that. Describe it just a little bit.
So the tagline, or what I open the show with, is that we're talking about the control programming and automation aspects of the AV industry.
Well, we're gonna have people sitting here to talk. Go ahead. Sorry.
So the control programming and automation aspects of the AV industry. So we talk everything about the different parts of the industry, commercial, residential. We talk about programming. We do have episodes on source code, but we also talk about just what are we accomplishing with programming and how do we get there. So I think a recent episode that I could plug is talking about the impact of firmware. I mean, firmware is always that word that people fear.
Yeah.
And, how do you manage firmware? Firmware these days is becoming a part of every piece of equipment. And what is the programming impact? Rich Fergosa provides
Uncle Richie
more of the residential background, and
right.
And I try to provide some of the commercial side of it. And then we round out the show with guests that can really speak to the topic that we pick for the month.
Oh, very cool. So yeah, State of Control. It's monthly on AVNation.tv. There's that and a bunch of other shows. We'll mention them at the end. Just for that. So let's take a quick break. I'm hoping to get on somebody from New Era, Susan Luci, an engineer, who I am told is often resistant to chatting live and stuff, but she's got a great background, a very interesting kind of concept on how this works. And being an engineering type, I'd love to hear her.
We could talk about the turnout for people to come to New Jersey. That's in a bit of a remote place. And hey, I live in New Jersey, so I'm not going to.
Yeah, but your office is just a stone's throw across now. So,
but I don't live around the corner anymore. But it just shows that there's a lot of passion about the Women's Council, and I'm impressed. And I feel like AVIXA should be as well.
Come on, we'll edit and it's live. It's fine. What? Do you want to come on? What? Amanda, you?
Yes, please.
Anyone? Susan? Any of those people?
That was a good.
Yeah. She knows. She's been on our show. She knows how that works. All right, so we've got that. We're going to have on, just so you get a running list of who we hope to get on before the end of the broadcast. Amanda, is she from AVIXA? Is that who that is? Yeah, from AVIXA, so that'll be interesting. We're looking to have Gina Sansivero. Tim is laughing now. He knows how I do this. Alyson Courain. John Green says he doesn't want to come in, but something should be noted that from New Era, he is the president of sales and marketing. He drove the bus up here. He got everyone to come up and said he will drive and get them here. So kudos to John for being supportive of that, even not just go, but I'll get you there kind of thing. And we'll talk a little bit more about some of that stuff. Some of the articles that you and I were talking about before this show.
There we go.
As it get interrupted.
How are you?
All right.
You guys know him now.
I think we've talked briefly once or twice, but yes.
Hi, how's it going? Pleasure to meet you.
Yes. Come on, sit down.
Actually face to face.
Yes,
right?
exactly.
Let me know if you need more.
Well, if you see that repeated out for
anyone else.
All right, so I don't have your full name and your role, and you're with AVIXA. It's Amanda.
I am Amanda Eberly Boyer. I'm the Senior Director of Member Services.
All right, we'll say it. All right, we'll make sure that Amanda Eberly Boyer, Senior Director of Member Services with AVIXA out of Fairfax, Virginia.
Yes.
It's a brand new building, right? You've got a lot going on.
Well, it's the same building. We just redesigned it like we did everything else. So.
Right. All right, so tell us about your role. I mean, first, we're at this event. So if you're a Senior Director of Member Services, as we've been talking about, guys, again, Steve and I said, when I started, I'm 52. I started 30 years ago in this business, especially in the live events. There was very few women in the industry.
Yep.
If they were there, they were accountants. And maybe they were client facing when I worked in the manufacturing side.
Yeah.
Maybe marketing, and that thing. But so as a member services with that, Are we looking at the STEM people? I've been asking this again and again, but is it focused on the STEM, or as we've been saying, is it getting those people who are also in those sometimes higher paying marketing and client facing jobs to merge over to that side and fill in a gap and be that example for the other young ladies in vocational schools or high schools who would want to do this, but like the old math scenario, might be kind of shamed out of it?
Yeah, well, so one of the big things in member services that we're working on is we have a workforce development initiative. So we are reaching out to colleges and universities. We're reaching out to trade schools. We're giving them AVIXA curriculum to help them work towards their CTS, to realize that there is a full industry with jobs available for them, whether it's right after high school, whether it's through a vocational school, whether you're being a design engineer and or going into what you think is broadcast engineering and realizing that there's not a lot of broadcast engineering jobs that they might be able to do right out of college, but guess what? There's a really great fit for you here in the AV industry, where you can do some really cool things with technology. And so in the past, we've been involved with the Science and Engineering Festival.
Yep.
We're trying to spread our initiatives out even further than that and doing more of a grassroots, as I said, going into colleges, university, trade schools. The Young AV Professional Council is doing a lot of career mapping and how do people get into the industry. I fell into this industry. A lot of my other colleagues have fallen into the industry. People kind of end up doing it or stumbling into a job because whatever their path that they thought they were going to go to didn't quite work out, but then they started running sound, for their friend's band or, doing something at their house of worship. Sure. And then realizing that there's more to it than just, flinging the cables. There's also a whole bunch that they can do with it in terms of video conferencing, working at a conference center, whatever it is. AV's everywhere. And so reaching out to younger students, using the the Young AV Professionals Council to kind of help map careers, so how people kind of step through their progression, is also a big project initiative, as well as working on a mentorship program. How do we mentor people as they come into the industry to make sure that they know that there is a path for them that they can follow, or I'm in here and I'm ready to make my next step, maybe to some of those higher positions that you were talking about. What does that look like? So we're making small steps, and we're hoping to continue. So the more we can get out there and the more events like we have here with the AVIXA Women's Council, and bringing it to that local feel, so more and more women can come, whether they're in the marketing department, the sales department, they're an engineer doing the work, they're a product designer, whatever it is. Let's get them out and coming to AVIXA Women's Council events, and let's continue the conversation.
Well, tell me a little bit more about reaching out to the vocational schools and high schools, especially. You go also into high schools, right? Vocational high schools or high schools in general.
We focus more to the vocational, like the trade schools, but the high schools who have those programs, we're definitely reaching out to them as well. Event-U, it's a group that we partner with in DC with LaToya. They take students at the high school and college level age, and are actually having them work and do projects and programs. And we're sending a couple of those students out to the Vegas show so they can see what's going on and really get a feel of the industry beyond just what they're doing in their classroom. And so it's the more that we can do initiatives like that, the better off we are. We have a grant program too through our workforce development initiative and through our the AVIXA Foundation that actually partners with AV companies to have almost like an intern come in and follow around different parts within their facility, and allows them to go hand in hand with current employees to see that there is those career paths and then hopefully hire them on. We also have a scholarship program, the Michael Vergalen Scholarship Program through the AVIXA Foundation, where students who are going to school and maybe need a little bit of extra scholarship help, they're able to apply for a scholarship and get money towards helping them with their tuition. So the more we can get the word out about these, and the more that we can aim then our members to be able to go into their local schools in their area, the better. So if people are interested in doing that and really want to arm themselves to be able to go into their kids' schools, their friends' schools, whatever, reach out to us, call AVIXA and ask for Joseph Valerio or myself, and we will be happy to get you that information, because it takes the village. So it takes all of our AVIXA members to be able to get into those colleges and universities and high schools and vocational schools, because we can't be everywhere. But if we have the community behind us and you guys have the relationships, we can make it work.
I think we're all trying to solve that problem of
Right.
how do we get more people and how do we grow our workforce. So it's a great opportunity, it sounds like.
Yeah.
I know that the membership structure's changed a bit in the last year, and it probably has done that to invite more people into the industry and into the association.
Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I'd be happy to. So you're exactly right, Steve. That's one of the reasons why we changed the membership structure. The old structure was kind of a one-size-fits-all, but it wasn't fitting all. We had one for the individual and we had one for the company, and it wasn't addressing the need to get additional people who maybe just need to dip their toe in and realize what the AV industry is about. So that's why we kind of split it up into the enterprise membership and then the professional society membership. That professional society membership is really gauged towards the individuals. So we have a basic, premium, and elite. The basic is free. It's a great way to get students in. It's a great way to get people coming into the industry. You just kind of want to start understanding, what is this industry? Who is AVIXA? What resources are there available for me and for me to grow my career? Then the premium level is a little bit more. That is paid. It's $99, but you do get on a certain amount of online classes for free. Everything else is at discounts. You have access to the industry standards. So there's a lot of great benefits that kind of help pull you in as if you're already in the industry and you're ready to take that next step. It helps you start prepping towards your certification. You get access to the CTS prep online. So it's a really great fit for that. And then the highest level is the elite. That one's kind of like you get all the content. So
Sure.
all of our online content is included with the elite membership. You can go in and search by topic. So if you're trying to get your renewal units so you can renew your education or your certification, that's a great way. Everything else, you have an even higher discount than what you have on the premium level. So if you're looking for on-site classes or virtual classes or taking something at the show, you get a great discount on all of those. But again, it really is focused towards not everyone needs everything. Some people need something very specific, or they want to kind of, as I said, dip their toe in. So it's important that we have a membership that can fit any of them. And then on the enterprise side or the company side, we have, again, 3 levels of membership that really depend on what your individual business need is. So we have bronze, silver, and gold, starting with the bronze level. You get 5 elite seats included, and then all your other employees are premium. Going up to when you have gold, and you have, again, all your employees are premium, but then you have 50 elite seats. So within that, you also get varying levels of discounts, and you get varying additional products. So if you have questions on what membership is going to be right for you, give us the call. Email us at membership@avixa.org or give us the call, and we'll be happy to kind of ask you what your goals are and what you're trying to accomplish, and then recommend what's actually going to be the best fit for you. Our goal is to make sure our members are utilizing their membership to their fullest potential. Their staff and their employees are utilizing their membership to the fullest potential so that they can elevate them professionally.
It sounds like there's really no excuse to not get involved.
There's really no excuse. And then being any level of membership, premium, elite, the 3 enterprise levels, it enables you to become part of the council. So if you're looking at trying to get involved and having your voice heard in the industry and having your voice help direct the association, make sure you're joining a council, whether it's the AVIXA Women's Council, whether it's any of our other vertical councils that are there, or we are in the process of starting to launch a diversity council. So if you really want your voice to be heard from a diversity perspective, we're looking for volunteers.
Wow.
But again, you have to be a member, but that's one of the benefits of being a member is that your voice gets heard by the industry.
I've found, at least in my experience, that it's a great way of tuning in to what's going on and being able to identify with the association. So I fully endorse it. So.
Oh, wonderful. I love to hear that.
Now, I'm sure we all know that the avixa.com is the website.
.org.
.org. I keep doing that. avixa.org. But if they want to talk more specifically about the stuff that you just described, is that within the website? Is there a specific URL? Who do they contact?
you can. It's all within the website. But if you want membership at avixa.org, you can email us directly. We'd be happy to talk to you. If you're looking at trying to get involved with the councils, avixa.org/councils. If you're looking at joining and becoming a member, so you can really maximize, avixa.org/join. Or just give us a call, 703-273-7200. And Eileen, our wonderful receptionist, will be able to direct you to the right person within the organization.
Oh, cool. Well, thank you so much for your time. We were speaking with Amanda. I'm sorry, I'm going to say that.
Amanda Eberly Boyer.
Amanda Eberly Boyle. She's the Senior Director of Member Services at AVIXA. Thanks so much for your time.
No, thank you guys. It's been fun.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks.
Cool.
Great turnout.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, I know. It's awesome. And then last year around this time is when they had like the monsoon. You came to that one too, didn't you?
Probably,
During,
but
like the middle of the rainstorm. I think you were there, maybe.
I try to go as much as I can.
Yeah, I'm trying to get to as many as I can. I actually didn't tell Gina I was coming until like yesterday.
Oh, really? I was asking because I wanted to make sure we got you on.
Yeah. I was like, I think I'm going to be able to go. Am I going to be able to get someone to watch the dog? You know.
You drive up, I take it.
I have to train, so
It makes it easier.
it makes it a lot easier. So, yeah.
To Newark.
To New York, yeah, Newark.
Yeah.
I always say it wrong, but so how are you doing?
Good.
Yeah,
Yeah.
staying busy.
Trying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are you ready for InfoCom?
Getting there. Yeah. I'm still trying to get the transition from ISE because it's the first time I went to ISE this year.
Right.
So
What did you think?
it was awesome.
Yeah. Are you ready for the next person up?
Oh, sure, but no rush. She hasn't brought him over yet. But no, I agree. But what did you think of ISE since we're filling time?
It was fantastic event. I mean, it was just very different. I don't know how to. I found it had just so much. It was so much more enriching than InfoCom is, just in a different way. I don't know.
Well, it's quieter. There's no wall of noise. Even though there's loudness, it's subdued. The way it's structured is odd because that facility is a little bit of a maze. And
the hallways.
It's also weird because you go up and down and around and over to the side, and it's this L shape, and you're over in this section, and it's organized really well. But it's a very European event. We occasionally had to do things where we would have competitions for a product.
Yeah.
And every single one, we'd have a camera and go, look, do this, and you could win an XYZ, the fastest time. To a T, all of the European attendees went, no, I just want to do it. Please don't film me.
Yeah.
And when we got someone who wanted to do it, oh, yeah, I can do this quick. I'll tell you, it was in America. So we'd come over. So that kind of show, it's this more subdued.
Yeah.
The pomp and circumstance isn't there.
And we did a couple of times the Airbnb there.
Yeah.
We were only a couple of blocks from the facility, from the event space, and it was quiet.
Yeah.
I live in New York. You go to New York near Javits, it's all the horse, the police horse guys, and it's getting a little bit better now from the days, but it's a different environment entirely. And you walk in and there's the beautiful, elegant fixtures that we just don't seem to show at our shows.
Yeah.
Even CEDIA doesn't seem to show those beautiful and elegant hand-blown lamps with the control surface built in, and it's just a whole different experience. I really enjoy it. I missed it this year, but it's embarrassing.
Yeah, I would say. I think that the conversations that you have and the focus that the manufacturers give you at ISE seems to be a lot. I don't know. For me, I found it to be a lot more rewarding. Whereas there's a lot of busyness going on at InfoCom. It's fun and exciting, but it seems it's a little bit more distracting.
Yeah, and it works both ways. I mean, you go to the Las Vegas or the Florida one, and it's intense. There's lots, like you said, going on. There's lots of stuff to get your attention. You have to be focused.
We're excited. We're getting ready for everyone for Vegas, and we're having some meetings and what are we going to do for this and that. It's going to be awesome. So we have a lot of fun activities planned for everyone. The live events forum is well underway. We have the technology managers getting together. We have our council meetings. So we just sent out an email about where you can get free beer at the show.
Nice. I like that. So there's the Twitter account to follow.
Yeah.
Free beer.
What's the open rate on that one?
Yeah, exactly.
Right? I think that was the subject line. Was the free beer at IC18. So.
That's cool. Again, well, thank you so much.
Thank you, guys.
Anyway,
hopefully the next person will be able to come in.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Did you guys get to do the tour?
No, but I've been we did it. Oh, I did it a couple of years ago, but yeah.
It was pretty cool.
It's awesome.
It's awesome.
It really is. We'll talk to you in a bit.
Yeah.
Cool. So we'll have somebody come up soon. I'm not sure who. Come on, I believe that's Susan. Susan, right? Yeah, Susan Luci. All these people I have no notes for. I try to prepare and there's no notes.
No notes.
Yeah, let's bring you in just a little bit so we can hear you. You are Susan Luci,
Yes.
right? And you're with New Era,
Yes.
newly minted New Era
Yes.
company. And I don't know your title, so please let us know what that is.
I am director of design.
Okay.
So what I do is I oversee, there's several different groups that work together and I oversee them. I have the sales engineers, the drafters, the design team, and I still assist in overseeing the programmers as well. So I help to bring them all together with engineering as well, kind of like the bridge between sales and engineering and bringing those groups together so that there's a lot of communication and there's no walls to open that up, because traditionally there are walls between departments and those groups need to function well together. So it's a good part of what I do.
So the peacemaker, it sounds like.
Just facilitating communication and making sure, and yeah, there's a little peacemaking going on in there too, smoothing over, because like any company, there is a lack of knowledge sometimes in really understanding what it takes to sell it and what they go through and the process. And then when it comes over into engineering and understanding, and then the same thing when engineering does what they do, really understanding that process and everything that's involved when it then goes to the production side of things. So, even within a company, there sometimes is a struggle in people really understanding what the different departments do and having an appreciation for it.
Having worked for a manufacturer, I know, like you said, the walled gardens between, say, software and hardware sometimes it can lead to very strange things. But do you take your engineers through, say, the production process and get them through the manufacturing side to say, here's why you need to know about this, because in the end it's going to result in you're doing that being a problem for the end user?
So they are very much aware of that process. I think what they don't understand, and when I say production, I mean more of project management.
Okay.
So the client facing, understanding that they are client facing, our project managers, and obviously our sales team are client facing. Within engineering, there's very limited to that. Sometimes there is a relationship with a legacy client that we develop that they do know the programmer or they do know the engineer, and sometimes they even know the drafter or the design team, but it's very limited. And I think anytime you're client facing, you have to understand the difficulty that when you are asking for approval or information or moving forward, it's not as easy as it appears to be. And it goes vice versa for the same with the production side, which is our project managers, our on-site teams, understanding what engineering does and understanding the process around that, and that putting a drawing set together isn't something that happens in a couple of hours. There's time involved in that, and I think getting everyone to understand really what's involved with one department's task versus another department's task can be challenging sometimes.
So I guess if you were to give other companies, an insight as to what challenges you face, what are some ways to overcome roadblocks? Because we all kind of are in the same boat. I mean, even small companies.
I think sometimes it's really just exposing a little bit of what those processes are. And sometimes it can be as simple as attending meetings. Every department has meetings, and sometimes, bringing in engineering into some of those other meetings and understanding. And I know for me personally, I started within the engineering department, and as my position has changed, I've been more exposed to the sales side of things. And so now I really see exactly how many times a proposal may go back and forth with the client and the salesperson, how difficult sometimes they are in coming to a decision or getting on site to see the site and put this together. And a lot of times it is just that voice for them when I'm meeting with engineering, or if it's engineers. And when I say engineering, that group includes an engineer, a drafter, or a programmer. Like, that's part of what the engineering team is considered. That's who makes up the engineering team on any given project. So when I meet with them, or if we're having a discussion with engineering, just enlightening them. So for others, again, it's really just exposing, breaking the walls down, having engineers sometimes work with sales engineers so that they see that process, having the PM team be more involved in what's really involved in the drawing set, so they understand the hours that are involved. And when there's a change, that change may mean that you've got 10 places in your drawing that you have to go back and change that. And you also may now have to reaffirm, is it going to work? Is there a weight issue? Is there a depth issue? Does it, there's other things to take into consideration. And it's really just conversation a lot of times that you need to take a little bit. Time is usually something that we don't always have. And that's one of the challenges that we face. But I think it's important to give that insight and educate everyone around as to what it takes to do something.
So let me ask the more overriding question. So why engineering and why AV? Right? Because we're here with the Women's Council. Why did you get into this, and what challenges excited you about doing it?
So I'll be honest. I really knew nothing about AV when I started.
So say all of us, by the way.
Yeah, I really knew. And the sad thing is I didn't even know exactly what that meant. I've been with the company for about 9 years. It was my first exposure to audiovisual, and I understood once, I understood pretty quickly the surface items that really were about it, but I really didn't know. And I think it starts, I know for our company, we have taken some steps because it's educating the younger generation, going to high schools, going to their career days and talking about AV and letting them know it's an option. Because let's face it, when you're trying to make decisions about what college, what are you going to take, there is so much out there that trying to narrow it down to something can be difficult, and it's even more challenging if you don't even know that industry exists.
For sure.
Yeah, that was, I guess, the center of my question too is, when you talk to these groups, or you think about talking to these groups, what would you say to them to convince them that this industry is the one to get into? And I want to preface that by, there was a Wall Street Journal article about a young lady, what was her name? Renee Nicholson. Relay Nicholson. Honor student, had her choice of 4-year colleges and decided she wanted to go to vocational school for diesel mechanic and engineering. And she's been righted both on the social medias and by her own family and her community. Why would you do that to yourself? Why would you not go get that college career? But there's where the sea change is happening. Now, what would you say to those Renees and others like her, that this industry is the one that you should be going into, 4-year college or not?
So I think you probably, I started out in art and then went to architecture and then started as a drafter. So I think there's probably something that you can take from if you go into a career day and you go and look at all the different, the tables that are set up as to the different technologies or avenues that you can probably find something in each one of them. And technology obviously is going to be the big thing. It's what all the kids do today. It's all about that. So right there, you've got something to grab their interest when you tell them they have toys to play with. There are things that they can understand how it works, and it's about electronics. It's about the same way that you're using different apps, you're using your phone, you're using the gaming toys. You can understand and take it to an even more elevated level of, wow, look at all these boxes, or now it's software, and how you can put a whole room together. And I think that's going to excite a lot of kids. And the other part of it too is that there's a creativity to it. That's what got me, the creativity part. I want to be able to take something and figure out how I'm going to put it together. For me, it was a visual, but understanding that from the infrastructure part, laying out where displays are going to go, making sure that they fit, looking at the furniture, looking at putting together mounting details. All of that satisfied like the creativity part of it that I had from the art part. So I think if you break it down, there's probably something in the AV industry, whether it's you go and look at musicians, you look at the video part of it, you look at the creativity part of it, just technology. Right there, that's a lot that you can appeal to a pretty big audience just from that. I mean, there's so many musicians that are in our company that have stayed very attached to that.
Yep.
And it goes really well. Like there's a part of what they do for work that extends into part of what they love to do outside of work. And when you can make that connection, that's pretty awesome that your career connects to something personal.
Yeah, it's very interesting because it's more than some of the trade magazines show. We have glossy photos. We know behind it is the guys, in 28-degree temperature in an open framed house running wires. But at the end, having to be the ability to say, I helped go, the guy pushes one button, the lights go down, there's this full-throated sound that just gets you right in the gut. There's no better creative experience than that in doing that. You are physically molding the medium. You are actually working in that clay, and I think it's a great simile that you gave. I like that a lot.
It speaks well to the whole idea that the industry is talking more about user experience rather than the tech. And how do you create that user experience, which it does require art. But
yes.
I was fascinated when I learned the science behind what we do. That you don't just put a display on the wall, but you have to put it at a certain place on the wall, and you have to have a certain size display for the amount of people and so forth. I don't know, that's what made things click for me.
So there's two different appeals then that you have, like really talking about the user experience is someone that's going to be people oriented, someone that's going to want to like for me that appeals to me because I want to understand what people are trying to achieve and then figure out how do I make that happen. So there's a lot of like people oriented skills involved in that, understanding design, understanding a process. And then you've got the more mechanical side to it as well that also appeals. If you're into, putting together your own audio system in your room, if you're building, a car and your audio system in that, I mean, that part of it too, you get young people and whether, that's men and women that just like that. Also, you've got all of this technology around how your phones work and all of that. And I think that that aspect appeals to this younger generation greatly. You have a good
cool
audience there.
I want to do more in-depth interview with you. I really want to hear more. We are a little short for time, so I'm going to have to end it there and get on. We need to get Gina on. We need to get Alyson on before the end of this game. But thank you very much. Susan Luci, New Era. Your title again, I apologize.
Director of Design.
Director of Design. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you.
Thanks
for joining us.
I like that simile, the creativity. We often overlook it. You see coding, they don't see it as creative, but we've all, at least I know I've had some experience in being that guy in the 28-degree weather, running cable in that cold and doing that kind of stuff. And it is creative, man, getting those ceiling mount speakers in and getting that sound going or that, there's nothing like it.
I mean, from the perspective where I sit and on the programming side, although it's not always appreciated, there's a lot of art that goes into how you write your code.
Yep.
And even though the outcome may be the same, the way the code is constructed, and a lot of programmers work to optimize that, and they work to figure out how can I come up with the best solution to either get things done in the shortest amount of time or make it most flexible.
Yeah.
So you don't think about art and engineering as being one, but here's a good example of it.
It is true, and I think that's one of those links into those people in vocational schools in high school. Like, come, be part of this because it is. It's a little bit geeky. It's a little bit of filling in columns, but hey, please. Hello, how are you?
Very good. How are you doing?
All right, I've never met you before. Natasha, pleasure. Steve.
Hi, Steve. Good to meet you.
For the audience and for us, your full name and what you do and where you're from?
Natasha Lavalina Pena. I'm with Newer Technology and marketing manager.
Marketing manager?
Yes.
All right. And you've been with New Era, since Monday, but
I actually was one of the other companies acquired by New Era for media technologies that I've been with for 4 years now. So it's very exciting, all this growth that we're having, and welcome formally Advanced AV into the New Era family officially. So I've been part of the rebrand team.
Very nice. And you deal with the rebranding and to the I guess to the trade.
Yeah.
So in that to the trade and to what we're dealing with here, how would you describe to say a younger you, the AV industry, and why the younger you would want to get into this?
Well, I'm new to the AV industry. For me, technology was a K or still is partially now as New Era, a K-12 integrator. So, the last couple of months I've been very immersed in AV, and it's really the wave of communication, So as a younger me, I would say definitely be excited about it because it's really has a hand in everything that we're doing today. Today is a great example. This podcast wouldn't happen without it. Exciting.
I guess from a marketing standpoint, how can we promote the industry a little bit more to be able to attract younger people or other people who don't know about what we do?
I think events like the one today showing how things are made, the fabrication of it is really interesting. Everybody likes to know how things are made and what goes into it and the inner workings. And I think it just generates excitement for it. Coming out and meeting women in the industry, from my perspective, is a great opportunity, get their perspective. Networking in general is always a great means for it, but largely just showcases, kind of no pressure, just ways to see collaboration at its best, AV at its best.
Very cool. I mean, so you said with the previous company you were with was what's again? I'm sorry, I didn't hear it all.
Media technology.
And what did they do?
So largely our base was K through 12. We did integrations, cabling, data centers, networking, a lot of infrastructure support. In joining New Era and being exposed to the AV community, UC communications, things like that, we've really been able to expand our reach and really provide comprehensive solutions. It's not just your network now. Let's think and grow beyond that. And I think for Advanced AV now being part of New Era, it really opens their door to larger projects and really getting a holistic view of what their customers are working on and being able to deliver on that.
So K through 12, I mean, we always know that that's a hard sell. We have teachers who are ingrained. Yes. Okay. So yeah. So I mean, let's talk a little bit about that. Like that is also a lot of those teachers, especially in K through 12, are often new teachers, often cycling into the education field. Some of them are younger and they're used to technology, but utilizing that as a teaching tool sometimes is more difficult for them, right? How do we convince them that that's the proper tool, not just the whiteboard and then wiping it away or maybe photographing it for later?
I think the best way to get into it is to really show it as its best. We're using these things every day in life. Just the calls that we make on Skype or through Facebook Messenger, it's there, it's happening. So just kind of shift your focus and see it's totally applicable to every facet of our lives now, and their students are using it, so really get engaged. But I have found through trade shows and talking to customers, they are really excited about it. They're engaged and they want to really use these products, but it's getting the school to fund these things and put it in and implement it so everybody adopts it, not just one teacher. And I think that's where the trick is too. You have a handful of people who are really excited for it, and then others are slow adopters. So it's really changing their mindset and showing them the value. And in the past, we've worked and done workshops to really get the students and teachers working together, solving their problems. It's not just we're pushing this on you. Brainstorm, think about how can we effectively solve this problem for you, and now let's show you the tools to get there.
Yeah, it's the collaboration, I think, that is key, the students and the teachers. When you just set it on to the teacher, say now go teach, you're enabled, they don't always know what to do with it.
Exactly. Yeah, and it's being patient too. With technology, there's always hiccups. Nothing ever runs as smoothly as you like. Just going through a rebrand process ourselves, you kind of try to anticipate all the problems and be prepared for it, but inevitably there's going to be some setbacks. You just have to work through them and understand that it's going to happen, but prepare them for it, educate them, and then you'll get through it. And the light at the end of the tunnel is far brighter than the stuff we're just trudging through. So.
Very cool. Do you have a further question?
I'm not. I guess I'm not sure how to speak to this per se, but the idea that this technology is more attainable these days can be a double-edged sword, because we have to kind of convince our clients that they need to take it to a professional level rather than be satisfied with what you can do on a consumer grade. And although you can use your cell phone to record something, having a lecture capture, let's say, is really the best practice way of handling it. Do you have any experience when you're marketing against those types of solutions?
Yeah, exactly. With Google, they have free services, which are great, but you really have to think about your student base and your teachers, the privacy around that, and really understand that, going through an integrator or a provider really helps you establish and lock down how your information is stored and protected. That's a really big issue. So it's important people realize that. Over the last year, we've seen so many hacks, people losing their data left and right. Ransomware is a big thing, and it's getting into everything now. It's not just like, okay, we're going to hold your data. Now they're getting into like cryptocurrency, things like that. It's having the peace of mind and a bit more assurance that you have someone behind you supporting your efforts, backing up your data, protecting it. I think there's comfort there, and can't really put a price on that, especially in the K-12 industry where children's data is at stake here. Any compromise to that's a lifelong problem for them. So it's important that people really recognize the value of going through a provider.
It's a brave new world with all that data collection nowadays.
And
it
a
really
good
is.
example of how AV and IT really are one.
Yeah.
Absolutely. They are hand in hand. You really can't support one without the other. It's really important to really see that they're tied in that way. It's not just one or the other. You have to have the foundation network support to provide the AT solutions that people are looking for today. And technology just wouldn't be as fun without platforms like this to get people engaged and messages out. It's a really interesting time, the way that people are connecting and talking to each other. I'm a work from home employee, so this is critical to the way that I do business.
Absolutely.
Very cool. Well, thank you very much. We need to cycle in a few more people. They're trying to avoid us, but I think I need to get them in. They are parts of the essential part of this. Thank you so much for your time.
Yes,
All right.
for having me.
Thank you.
Have a good night. All right, I'm going to get Alyson in. She needs to get her in here. Where is she? I think she disappeared on me. So I have to either get that or hold on one second.
You get it. I'll take a picture. You can get it. No. No. He's going to tweet it.
All right. So I'm going to muck up your name because I never get it right.
That's okay. Everybody does.
Gina, you're with FSR, and you are the AVIXA Women for New York, the New York Council Director, right?
So I am a coordinator,
Okay.
And I share responsibilities with Dana Bauman from Control Concepts. Yeah, so I don't think that anybody getting started as a coordinator for a regional group should ever be alone. It's a lot of work. I mean, it's a lot of volunteer hours. So having a co-conspirator is a must, and it's one of the first things that we tell people when they get started.
So let's talk about why this group was formed. Right, so
Specifically New York, or just regional groups in general?
Well, the AVIXA Women's Council, and why you think a New York chapter or a local New York Metro chapter is important.
I was going to say the regional meetings happened organically. Nobody said go and make regional meetings, correct?
Okay, so let me start with A, and then we'll go to B. So the AVIXA Women's Council was originally the Women of Infocom Network, and what AVIXA and at the time Infocom realized was that there was a need for diversity in the organization and the industry. And diversity only lends more stability to organizations, whether it's a not-for-profit like AVIXA or organizations that are for-profit like the ones that we work for. It's a different point of view, and so diversity is important. And so what we decided was there's so few women that bringing them together for that networking, for that support in a very non-competitive environment really allows people to feel comfortable talking about their challenges, talking about their successes, and helping motivate each other. And I think that with that motivation also comes outreach to other parts of the industry where we want people to succeed. We want other ladies to be in the positions that we've come to be in, or in positions that, you know, that are different than what we currently do and what we aspire to do. So there's all different levels. There's people who are brand new here in this industry, and then there are people who are owners and entrepreneurs. And so we've really had a great success with the overall AVIXA Women's Councils. Now, to get to your question, Steve, about the regional groups, AVIXA did send out a call in the Women's Council kind of group to say, you know, we want to start these regional meetings, and we want to be able to have, so the only thing that was really happening every year was the breakfast at Infocom. And so they were saying, you know, if we could continue this momentum, it would be really helpful for these groups, because the only time we do get to network, the only times that we do get to see each other is during Infocom. And so one of the first groups to get started was Corey Schaefer and Randy Alvarado's group out of Southern California. And they became the test beds or the guinea pigs. And I was going to say something that I probably shouldn't have. They kicked butt. They were the ones who said, okay, this works in this format. And so when I was thinking of starting the New York City chapter, I reached out to them, and they were the ones who originally said, get a co-conspirator, get somebody on your team to be able to help with the organization, to be able to help with all of the messaging and the outreach and the, you know, the coordination of everything. So I immediately said, Dana is new. So you have me, who's been in a few more years than I care to admit to, and then you have Dana, who was at the time brand new, and she was like, heck yeah, I'll do it, I'll jump in with both feet. And she was just, she had the energy that I was looking for that co-coordinator. And so that's kind of how that New York City chapter got started.
So what do you see as the prime initiative for the group? Like in recruiting new members, what do you hope to achieve with that? It's networking, but what's the after? What's that final?
My hope is that we are able to be an example for people who are coming into this industry, or even recruit people from out of this industry to come into this industry. Because I think a lot of it has to do with a stigma of being either an AV club or old musicians club or old roadies club, and it doesn't lend itself to be super friendly to females outside of the industry. And you know what? It is super friendly to females at all levels, and females in every part of the industry, whether you're in sales and marketing, or whether you're a technician or an engineer or a designer or anything else. It's a very friendly industry, and so we want to make sure that people see that outwardly. And so this is great, but I hope that tonight these ladies go home, and then tomorrow they talk about it, and they talk about it positively to people both inside and outside of the industry, and the word spreads, and that's kind of our goal.
It is unique though, because other councils can't replicate something like this, and so I find that I see the value in councils, but the this is something that you really just can't necessarily say that a consultants council or an integrators council is necessarily going to provide. And it's also kind of nice that it brings different people in different levels of the company, as you mentioned. So how do people aspire to do more? How do they get to become more of a leader, or more or further within either the organization or within the council?
So I think the first part is get good leaders. Get leaders with energy. Put them at the top and let that energy just trickle down, because good leaders will make sure that all the members are getting what they need to be motivated. So that's definitely number one. And I think from a council standpoint, that energy is definitely evident in our other regional council leaders. So, obviously Southern California, but we have great leadership in Atlanta. We have fantastic leadership in Tampa. We're getting a Boston chapter going. We have some movement in the Midwest for sure, in the Pacific Northwest, and even in Houston and Dallas. So we have really good leadership, and it's that energy that becomes contagious to be able to motivate the others to want to be around it. And I know that sounds kind of like hokey or spiritual or whatever, but I really think that energy is what is a magnet for other people, and other people who are forward thinking and movers. So that's for sure. And the other thing is, part of what the council, this specific council's mission is to encourage that out of Infocom discussion in different regions. And I think that is unique to this specific council. I don't think Infocom or AVIXA, has ever said to other councils, and I could be wrong, you should meet up with your counterparts on the council in other areas to make sure that you're continuing this conversation. Because I don't know, the standards committee might not need to do that. But to meet our mission, we definitely need to do that. So,
and you did an interview with, I think it's the, I'm going to get his name right, Ajish Raju.
yeah.
You did an interview a while ago. And one of the things that spoke to me when in the interview was that you mentioned the challenges to recruiting talent is that many folks don't even know, one, that we exist, or the skill set that's needed. It's varied and wide. And so how do we outreach from these women councils to, say, the vocational schools, to the young women and men who should be our next wave? I think of, was it Alicia Smooth Factor? Mm-hmm. There is somebody who is the face and the next generation of this industry. Right. She is everything. She is technical. She's got the camera presence. She can write. She can translate that information into something that excites people. Mm-hmm. How do we get her and your councils to those people in vocational schools who may be single-minded on either straight engineering or avoiding it because it just isn't on their radar?
Well, and I think one of the things that we can do is to not tell people that they have to be everything, that they can really embrace in this industry whatever single skill that they may have. Because guess what? We have introverts, we have extroverts, we have people who want to sit down and they want to just look at a circuit board and figure out how something works, or they want to go out and be in front of people. So I think it's really important to not limit us to a certain example. I love Alicia. Not saying that in any way. She is amazing and fantastic and has multiple talents, and there are a lot of people that might be scared that that's what they have to be, and so our outreach is really to make sure that we're spreading the word of that diversity of people, but also diversity of talent. Mm-hmm. And so being able to go to schools, colleges, trade schools, community colleges, even high schools. And I've gone to high schools before, and I've gotten in touch with the career placement department at high schools. And I've said, you might have kids here who don't know anything about AV. Let's do a presentation. It's no longer in high school the kids pushing the cart with the big TV and VCR down the hallway that it used to be. And we used to joke that those were kind of the geeks, right? Really cool geeks, but they were geeks. Is that an oxymoron? That might be an oxymoron.
No, it might be, but that was very nice of you anyway.
But I feel like, I guess, to simplify this, it's we first have to create this energy. We first have to get the momentum going, and then we hope that these ladies start becoming confident enough to talk about it, to be able to do outreach in a very organic way initially. So whether that's talking to somebody about what they did last night and that person's kid is in college, and then that person talks to their kid who's in college, and the next thing you know, you have somebody who's interested in doing some cool AV work, that's great. There are other organizations that have more structured outreach to colleges and universities. And I think that we should not be reinventing the wheel. So to partner with other organizations like the Ignite program that really has harnessed that that structure, and then adding our momentum, our energy, it's just a win-win for our industry.
So we talk with some others about the whole idea that the industry has to market itself.
Yep.
and that seems to be a common theme that we're seeing.
That's for sure.
George was also talking about too, is there an obstacle for women to go down the technical side, and is there are there less opportunities versus going down the traditional sales and marketing that might be a little bit more comfortable or accustomed?
So at an organization that really sees value in diversifying their workforce for stability, I do not think that there are fewer opportunities for women in technical positions. That being said, there are tremendous hurdles to women even going into a technical position from when they're small. And those are psychological hurdles, those are societal hurdles. And so, as a society, we are getting closer and closer to being less gender specific in our upbringing and things like that. But I feel like that has a lot to do with it. And so even the elementary schools, the K-12s and before that are embracing STEM and STEAM for girls, for women. There are girls who code clubs. And so there are things that are going on the periphery of our industry in very young grades that are really helping girls to embrace more technical roles. And I think that as those girls become women, we're going to see a change in that force as they come out of school, because there are going to be more to choose from, I'm sure, and fewer only sales, marketing, administrative, or management. They're going to be more in the technical programming, engineering, design roles.
Cool. So now the next meeting will be, of course, at Infocom in Las Vegas.
That's
right? It's
correct.
Lost wages this year. Lost wages. So what are you doing at Infocom? What's that like, and how do people find out about joining and getting into that?
So we do have the AVIXA Women Council breakfast, and that is going to be Thursday morning of Infocom at 7:30 it starts. We know that that's early. I don't think that we're going to have a hard start until about 8 o'clock. So that is something that you can find on the AVIXA website. It's the avixa.org, and then go and find the Infocom stuff, and then find, I don't know where it is on their website.
It's listed on their schedule
Yeah.
of what to join, and they just click through that to join and get a seat.
Correct.
Walk-ins welcome?
Not
No?
necessarily.
Okay.
They do feed us. So they do like to have a head count, and there is a little nominal fee to join because they do feed us. I think it's like $25 or $30, something like that. So we really encourage people to sign up in advance. I mean, they're not going to turn anybody away, but it's strongly encouraged to sign up in advance. And that is going to be in lieu of a New York City Metro group meeting next quarter. But the quarter after that is definitely on. We are starting to plan already for our fall shindig in New York City. And so if anybody wants to get involved with that, we need sponsors. We do not need a host for that one, but we do need sponsors. So if anybody's interested in sponsoring this group, or if anybody just wants to be involved, it's a free event, and we encourage both women and men to come. Please email me or Dana. It's Dana at Control.
DAYNA.
Yeah, DAYNAB at controlconcepts.net, or G Sansivero. I will be on that AVNation website because you guys will never get that last name, at fsrinc.com.
All right. Well, thank you very much. This has been Gina Sansivero. She's Director of Business Development Education at FSR and one of the coordinators of AVIXA New York Women's Council. Thank you so much for putting this on and for having us here.
Oh, okay. I just want to add that we had the largest turnout of any not other organization related AVIXA Women's Council regional group ever at Middle Atlantic or Legrand. And the only reason why I say that is because the one that we did in conjunction with Digital Signage Week in New York City was just slightly larger. But this was fantastic. So thank you for being here, and we'll see you soon.
Thank you.
Thanks.
And let's get Alyson over here before she has to speak so we can get her on. Very cool. It's all about outreach. It's all about getting them in.
It's an impressive group, and there's a lot of women that have gotten behind it throughout the country, and I wish that it could be replicated in other areas of the industry.
Well, I went to a trade school, and I know that even from a non-gender side of it, going to a trade school and going back to that engineering trade school for recording and bringing people in saying, you're going to play with these toys all day long. You're actually going to do this. It's a great option for you. And no, you won't be making coffee or cleaning toilets. You'll be working. The recording industry is renowned for getting you a degree. It takes 2 years, and they go, fine, go get food for these guys and clean those toilets, and we'll see you in about 2 years. Do that, So joining us now is Alyson Courain. I don't know your title. I'm sorry.
Sales and Marketing Program Planner.
Okay, Sales and Marketing Program Planner. You work a lot with your Elle program,
Yes.
right? So it's ELLE.
Correct.
So talk to us a little bit about that program and its way of reaching out within the company. I know that Cheryl told us about the mapping and about using that to sort of guide people towards careers
Yes.
and moving within the company, finding the best person, going, oh, there's a hidden talent you didn't know you had, and we really like to use it. But the Elle program is a little more expansive than that. Tell us more about it.
It is. So we have a lot of different components to the program, which is really great. So no matter what stage of a career the women of Legrand are in, there's something for them in that program that would be really impactful for them. So we have a mentoring piece to the Elle program. We provide ongoing quarterly professional development workshops. So those are workshops that might focus on presentation skills, negotiating skills, things of that nature. We also have just an informative quarterly newsletter, which is, it sounds simple. I don't know about you guys. I love a good newsletter though. But it's a good way that just kind of, provides an overview of highlights and updates of the Elle program's reach and really how far they're able to take it. So that's a few things is kind of at the national level of the Elle program. So in addition to that, we also have what we refer to as the local program of the Elle program. And so that's where we really kind of bring it down just into the office, into our community that we're with day in and day out. And we have monthly circle meetings. So I don't know if you guys are familiar with that, the circle, the lean-in circle format.
Cheryl Sandberg?
Yes.
Right.
Exactly.
It's based on a book. I can't remember what the book is that she wrote.
Lean in.
Lean in. Okay.
Yes. Yep. Exactly. So that's just a monthly meeting format in a tight-knit, smaller group, a circle of women, maybe 8 to 10 women. And they, it's just about that peer support, the discussions, and the discussions that are helping us to form those roadmaps and that planning, kind of like what Cheryl was speaking to. And just in that format, in those circles, a critical component of that is just the trust that we're able to build with one another.
And is the name Elle significant to something?
It's very significant.
Okay.
It is. It's French for sheep.
Okay. Well, there you go.
Yes, easy as that. So, I mean, as you probably know, Legrand is a France company, located in France. So the Elle program actually originated with Legrand over in France.
Okay.
I believe back in 2013. So we brought it here to the North and Central Americas in 2015.
Do you have an example of a success story that you could share within the program?
Can I go with this one right now? So I mean, I'm deathly terrified to actually speak to people.
Okay.
So it's interesting because that's something that we often talk about is how do you measure the success of this kind of program? And I mean, to be honest, it's a little bit tricky. So, I mean, as a company, of course, we want to kind of look at, retention of women, promotion of women, the change in the female representation in management and leadership positions and things like that. But I mean, beyond that, it's the impact of the program is really with each participant. And it's just very individualized and it's with them. And it's hard to track that and know when that's happening.
Right.
So, I mean, I guess for what it's worth, the one that I would share would just be my own. I've been about 3 years into the program now. And I would say that just through some of the workshops and the professional development webinars, I've really been able to work through just kind of my presentation skills and just the confidence to, just as Cheryl would say, lean into the conversation.
It's wonderful.
I know you have to do a speech and we got you late. So you tell us when you need to go. But I'm fascinated by some of your background.
Okay.
Not only are you in AV and you have this role, but I want to get this right. You have a Bachelor of Science in Pharmaceutical Marketing, Business Management, and Biology and Chemistry.
Yes.
Now, biology and chemistry and pharmaceuticals. Now, of course, the first joke is, of course, we need that in this industry sometimes, right? You have to,
maybe a little.
you have to be on something to want to come into this industry, right? Am I right? But talk to me about the biology and chemistry. What did that entail, and what is that about?
Okay, so I mean, it's a little bit of an interesting story. So I started college. I knew I wanted to get into healthcare, and really the only reason for that was that I just wanted to be able to help people. So I mean, as what happens with every college student, I changed my major. I'm trying to figure out what I want to do in life, all that good stuff. So before I knew it, I was having these tracks of pharmaceutical marketing, biology, and chemistry, and instead of going into kind of the patient side of healthcare, I thought, well, maybe I can stay in the back end, if you will, on the business side. So I just quickly found out that type of industry wasn't for me. And it's based on, the last job that I had prior to coming to Mid-Atlantic Products, it just wasn't an enjoyable one. And the thing that I learned out of that is how important that culture, the company, your work environment, that industry, just how much of an impact that can have on you and your job. So it just caught me at the right time. I was in transition of jobs, ended up just landing an interview here at Mid-Atlantic Products. I had no idea what the industry was, what the company was, but I came in and it felt like family. So
no mobile lab in your background, no applying the chemistry to.
No, I'm sorry to disappoint. No.
Well, we know that Bob, the founder, has his grow light business.
Yeah.
Didn't know if there was any overlap there.
No.
It is a non-smoking building in and out, I saw. So it might be another reason. Cool. Well, I don't want to keep you from your last presentation. We are nearing the end of the event. So thank you so much for your time.
Thank
cool.
you.
That was Alyson Courain. She is, again, your title. I apologize.
Sales and Marketing Program Planner.
I would remember that one.
It's a mouthful.
Yeah, there you go. Thank you so much and for such a wonderful event.
Oh, thank you. Thank you guys for being here.
Thank you. Appreciate
Cool.
it.
So with that, we're going to probably sign off in just a moment. Do you have any final thoughts on everything you've heard today, the outreach to all of this stuff?
It's a lot.
And John Green saying goodbye. Thank you, John. John, by the way, I think we mentioned earlier, he drove a whole boatload of people, a busload, I'm told, from New Era. So kudos to him for doing that. And that's probably a good 2 hour and a half drive.
Almost 2 hours.
Yeah. So kudos to the gentleman. He didn't want to be on. He wanted all to be about
it
the
just
gals
goes
from
to
the
show
AVIXA.
how important it is to build community.
Yeah.
And I think that a lot of these women are really dedicated to
And we can move you in a little bit. You're a little out of frame.
A lot of these women are dedicated to the council and what this means to them and their way of connecting with the industry.
Yeah.
I think that friendships have been built, and I feel like there's a sense of belonging.
Oh. Well, we've lost the lights. I don't know why. But with that, we're probably going to end the broadcast. Thank you to the AVIXA Council, the Women's Council, to Gina and all the rest, to Mid-Atlantic for hosting this, for allowing AVNation to be there. So we are proud of AVNation.tv. Please see us at AVNation.tv. We've got this show and a multitude of other shows for the vertical and horizontals of this market. AVNation.tv. Thank you so much. Steve Greenblatt, thank you for doing this with me. I'm your co-host, George Tucker. For that, we say good night.